Welcome to Recurring Insight. It's the beginning of your upkeep, so it's time for another video. Today we have part 2 of Sans Black decks. I'm your host Michael, and let's dive in. The decks we'll be looking at are Evolution by Altoon 7, Advantage Blue Pod by Hallenium, and Dawnwaker Thrasios by Comedian. Before you go any further, this is part 2. Part 1 focuses on the combos, and part 2 focuses on the card choices. If you haven't watched part 1, please do so now. Alright. All of them are proactive, with Evolution and then Dawnwaker being the most proactive, followed by Advantage Blue Pod. One of the largest recurring themes is the tightness of slots, to the point that even some of the staples don't make it in. We'll start with the removal. They all are on the best blue removal. It is interesting that Cyclonic Rift makes the cut, as it can't be used to abuse Dockside. Snap, however, is incredibly efficient. Dawnwaker doesn't have the space for much removal, but Evolution and Advantage Blue Pod run Abrade and Force of Vigor, which are flexible removal. Unsubstantiate is also flexible, and can be used to abuse Dockside. Winds of Rebuke makes it into Evolution as it fills the graveyard for a breach. They have a much better showing when it comes to stack interaction. They have the standard suite of interaction, but I do want to draw your attention to 3 cards. Deflecting Swat and Fierce Guardianship work great with the 2 CMC commanders. Force of Negation is a bit more deck dependent, and is typically seen in ad nauseam decks. However, the decks all have high value permanents like Seedborn Muse, and Force of Negation is effective at preventing other wins. Allosaurus Shepherd is typically seen in food chain decks, but this makes Pod and Yi-Sun uncounterable. Dolvin's Veto and Mandarin were the source of some confusion, but the decks prioritize free and 1 CMC interaction. Dolvin's Veto makes it into Advantage Blue Pod and Dawnwaker, while Mandarin only makes it into Dawnwaker. Dolvin's Veto isn't universal and doesn't provide additional mana, but it is uncounterable and doesn't require double blue. Muddle the Mixture suffers a similar problem, being double blue. However, it can find Dockside, Power Artifact, and Kinnan. Evolution, being the most proactive, also runs Pact, Pyroblast, and Spell Pierce. I do want to note that Red Elemental Blast is better, as Deflecting Swat can't redirect it. As noted before, Advantage Blue Pod runs Unsubstantiate. Moving on to the card draw, it is lacking compared to other blue decks. They all run the best card draw in green and blue, with the exception of 3 cards, namely Time Twister, Wheel of Fortune, and Windfall. The decks are proactive, but there are decks that play out their hand faster, and they negate the benefit of having Thrasios to grind games out. Additionally, although not the main reason, there's a critical amount of wheel payoffs seeing play in the meta right now. However, Wheel of Fortune and Windfall do make it into Evolution, as the most proactive deck and the only one running Breach. This is further shown by the inclusion of Jeska's Will and Manamorphose. Ponder was cut from Advantage Blue Pod due to the tight slots, and Preordain was cut from all of them for the same reason. Grob is interesting, as it's a green staple, but it's too slow for the decks, and the meta is moving away from it. Dawnwaker does still run it, as it can also neoform into Seedborn Muse. The decks all run a decent amount of tutors despite lacking black. They all run the standard tutors in the colors, but I want to draw your attention to Worldly Tutor. The decks all run creature-based combos, so it makes sense that Worldly Tutor makes the cut, even when it doesn't in some other green decks. Evolution has cut Gaia's Cradle, so Advantage Blue Pod and Dawnwaker are the only decks running crop rotation. They're also both running Kiki Jiki, so they both run Pod. However, Dawnwaker has a wider variety of combos, so only Advantage Blue Pod runs Yi-Sun and Survival of the Fittest, which are more mana intensive than Pod. Green Sun Zenith typically funds Yi-Sun, but can also grab Allosaurus Shepherd or a Dork. Evolution is proactive, so Gamble makes it in. As explained in part 1, Evolution lets you assemble the Breach combo, and Merchant Scroll finds Intuition. Tezzeret is interesting, it can grab Pod or any of the monoliths for Kinnan. Although Aven Mind Sensor has seen a decline due to recent printings, which makes it understandable that only Dawnwaker runs it, it does help balance out the lack of black tutors. Advantage Blue Pod runs a larger suite, but it's still relatively small compared to the original pod decks. I do want to note the exclusion of Hullbreacher from Dawnwaker. The list is incredibly tight, and per Comedian, Hullbreacher doesn't help cover any of the deck's weaknesses like Aven Mind Sensor does. Even without black, they have decent options for Recursion. Noxious Revival makes it into all of the decks because Fire Action mana is broken. Evolution runs Salvagers, Reclamation, and Breach as their combo pieces. Eternal Witness can serve as an outlet for infinite mana by repeatedly recurring a spell, and Karmic Guide is part of a pod line. And we're on to the ramp. They've got the best Dorks, Rocks, and then Carpet of Flowers. Evolution cuts some of the other dorks, as it relies more heavily on artifacts. Kinnan is a value and combo piece in Dawnwaker. Priest doesn't make it in the Dawnwaker because the slots are too tight. Tinderwall is an interesting choice, but it can serve as a ritual like Blood Pet, only better and red. Dawnwaker runs the monoliths, as they serve as combo pieces. The more proactive decks run Arcane Signet, Lotus Petal, and Mox Amber. Evolution pushes this further by also running Felwar Stone and Mana Vault. Dawnwaker also runs 2 land auras, which dodge a lot of stacks and aren't affected by Summoning Sickness. Finally, we have the Miscellaneous cards. Ephemerate and Final Fortune can be used to assemble Breach, and Quirion Ranger is used in Yisan lines. All the decks run Seedborn Muse and Training Ground, as they have insane synergy with Thrasios. However, Evolution doesn't include Zerda. Looking at an overview of the decks, we see that they are well rounded, although Advantage Bluepod and Dawnwaker are relatively light on card draw. They have a high amount of stack interaction as well, with Evolution and Dawnwaker being very heavy on RAM. Credit goes to Altoon 7, Hallenium, and Comedian for the decks, and Scryfall for the images. Let me know which was your favorite in the comments. I also want to shout out Comedian's YouTube channel. He does gameplay videos where he breaks down each decision point in a game and more. I highly recommend checking him out. Regarding the Christmas giveaway, Sesris Traitor King is the giveaway winner, so congratulations to you. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Michael, and I'll see you at the beginning of your next upkeep for another video.